Hello everyone, welcome to Rajeshwari's Commerce and Management Study Hub. I am Rajeshwari here. How are you all? Let us discuss today Ind AS 2. So Ind AS 2 represents the inventories. Inventories ಅಂದ್ರೇನು ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ರೈಟ್. ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಪಿಕ್ಚರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಗಮನಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲೋತ್ ಇದೆ, ಸೊ ದ ಕ್ಲೋತ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟಿಚ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಟ್ರಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ are three levels or three different types of inventories we can tell. Why we are understanding these levels is we are valuing the inventory in these all three levels. So here these are called raw materials. These are the work in progress where they are converting it to sell, finished goods. So here the goods are ready to sell, right? So let us understand this with an meaning. Inventory refers to the asset which are held for sale. So these are the inventories which is held for the sale or the consumption in the ordinary course of business. So inventory includes raw materials, work in progress, finished goods, stock in trade, stores and space. If it is capitalized under PPE, that is property, plant and equipment, loose tools. So in simple, if we want to understand, we have divided three levels: raw material, work in progress, finished goods. So these are used in the production or for rendering the services. Work in progress used in the production for such sales. So these are the goods which are ready to sell in the ordinary course of business, right? Now, how we are measuring these inventories? The measurement of inventories. ಮೆಷರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ವೆಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ನ ಆ ಮೂರು ಲೆವೆಲ್ ನ ಎರಡು ಭಾಗಗಳಾಗಿ ವಿಂಗಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಫಿನಿಶ್ಡ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರೆಸ್, another one is raw materials, because the loss arises when the material you have stored in the warehouse and when the work in progress are different, so you cannot value both in the same method measurement. So only you are measuring in a two different ways. So here when you take a finished goods or a work in progress, we are comparing the cost which I have incurred to convert a raw material into a finished product. So that value or the net realizable value, whatever the value I have recorded on the balance sheet, the date. Okay, so I'm comparing these two values. Whichever is lower will be considered as my finished goods or a work in progress. Okay, when it comes to our raw materials, here I'm valuing or measuring in two different ways. One, if I'm expecting to sell my finished goods more than or equal to the cost, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನಾನು 20 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, that is my actual cost what I have incurred. Okay, so either I am selling it for 20 rupees only or more than 20 rupees, like it will be at 21 or 22. Okay, so then I will be considering the raw material will be measured at cost. Okay, then if the finished goods I am expecting to sell at less than the cost, then raw material I am measuring at lower of cost or the replacement value, NRV. So I am comparing the cost again the NRV, whichever is lower I'll be consider. Now inventories you can measure either in group or item by item, because inventories are three different levels, like different sizes will be there in the inventory. So you can take the size wise also or overall. Okay, so we will understand that with an example over here. See here how to find the NRV. So NRV we are finding with the help of estimated selling price. From this we are deducting estimated cost of completion, how much I am expecting to complete the particular work. Okay, then deduct estimated selling expenses. So whatever the balance we are getting, that will be considered as our net realizable value. So here XYZ garments, they have a showroom, they have different shirts. Okay, So here 1, 2, 3. The cost of shirt 1 is 300 and NRV is 200. So here I am comparing item by item. Valuation, we are measuring item by item. If I compare the cost and NRV, whichever is lower will be considered as an value. ಸೊ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎನ್ ಆರ್ ವಿ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎನ್ ಆರ್ ವಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಎನ್ ಆರ್ ವಿ ನಾನು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. Again, in second item, I have 400, 500. So 400, the cost will be considered. Third item, 600, 750. 600 is considered. If I am considering the group valuation ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ, so the total of cost, the total of the sum of NRV, the sum, both the sum of cost and the NRV I am comparing. Whichever is lower, I am considering as a value. Okay. So here we have another item, another example, jeans. Again we have done the cost and NRV. The lower is cost 500 that we have considered. In item 2, we have compared NRV is lower, so that one we have considered. Third 800, 900, 800 we have considered, the cost is lower. When it comes to a group measurement, the cost is lower, so I have considered the cost over here. Okay. Now, how to find the cost of this inventory? ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ರಾ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ನು ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ, ವರ್ಕ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಿನಿಶ್ಡ್ ಗುಡ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ಬ್ರಾಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಸಪ್ಲೈಯರ್ಸ್ ಟು till it is getting ready to sell. So finished goods ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಅದು ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಅಪ್ ಟು ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋರ್ಗು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಫೀಸಿಗೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡೋವರೆಗೂ ಏನೇನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅದಷ್ಟು ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. So that is why you need to consider if any cost is necessary to bring the inventory to the present location. Okay. So how to calculate the inventories? Purchase price, whatever the material you have purchased. To this, from this purchase price, you are deducting trade discount. If you have a cash discount, then we are not considering the cash discount because the cash discount will be shown as a profit and loss account. So here we are not considering it. Only trade discount will be considered. If any import duty is there, here you need to remember only in case if it is non-refundable. Any duties you have paid is refundable, then you are not going to consider that. Only in case it is non-refundable, then you are considering that. Okay. Transport, freight charges, other handling costs like loading, unloading, insurance on purchase, brokerage, all these expenses you are adding to your purchase price. Because these are all will be considered as your purchase price only, the purchase cost. Okay. To this, these are the cost of your raw material. Now you need to find out what was your manufactured cost or conversion cost. Now you have converted these raw material into the finished product, right? So you are finding that conversion cost ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್, direct labor cost, other any direct cost is there that you are considering, variable overheads, that is indirect materials, fixed overheads, if any other cost if you have incurred, that will be considered. If you add all these things, you will get a purchase price, purchase cost of your inventories. Now here we need to understand how we are calculating this actual production, because the fixed overheads you are allocating based on your normal production or actual production, whatever you have incurred, how you have used it, how much you have used it, and the remaining balances. For that you need to understand this actual production. So actual production na ಎರಡು ಮೆಥಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. So what are those methods? First one, here by considering the closing units of finished goods, to this you are adding units of finished goods sold during the year, whatever you have sold. Okay. From these two you are deducting the opening units of finished goods. Then you will get the actual production for the period. Okay. Otherwise, with the help of a ledger account also you can prepare. Actual production, when it is not given, you can take opening stock, actual sales, closing stock like your trading account. The balancing figure will be considered as our actual production. Normal production ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ normal production and actual production, normal production or normal capacity also you can call actual production. These two you are comparing, whichever is higher will be considered for the calculation of fixed overhead per unit. Okay, now how you are allocating the total fixed overhead, let us understand. Total fixed overheads allocation. We can allocate the total fixed overheads in a two way. First one, by considering the actual production, whatever you have absorbed, that is called absorb. Under this, again, you can allocate in two way. First one, you are allocating based on your closing inventories. Allocating to closing inventories, then closing inventories into fixed overhead per unit. Overheads per unit. How you are finding this fixed overhead per unit? So total fixed overhead values will be given. Fixed overheads value ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. That divided by you are comparing the normal production and actual production, whichever is higher you are considering, no, from that you are dividing actual production, then you will get a fixed overheads per unit. ಆಕ್ಚುವಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಎರಡು ವಿಧಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ವೆಂಟ್ರಿನ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಆಗ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ವೆಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ನಾವು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ನ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಅಲೋಕೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಸೋಲ್ಡ್, ಎಷ್ಟು ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀನಿ ಅದ್ರ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಸೋಲ್ಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ವಾಂಟಿಟಿ ಸೋಲ್ಡ್ ಇಂಟು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ನ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್. ನೌ this is whatever you have used, absorbed. Unabsorbed is there, means how you are allocating that unabsorbed or remaining you can call remaining or unabsorbed ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್. ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಟೋಟಲ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇಂದ ಆಕ್ಚುವಲ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಡ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ನ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಡ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. Let us understand this with an example. Okay, how we are allocating. Now we'll take an example. So fixed overheads ಬಂದು fixed overhead is rupees 12,000 ಇದೆ. ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ 500 units ಇದೆ. 500 units. We have two cases over here. The case one is if actual production 400 units ಇದ್ರೆ all units remain unsold. ಏನು ಉಳಿದಿದೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸೋಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ. ಕೇಸ್ ಟೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಫ್ ಆಕ್ಚುವಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನಿದೆ 600 ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಇದೆ, 600 units ಇದೆ, and here all units remaining is unsold. Now first we'll solve the case 1. Case 1, first we need to find out what fixed overhead per unit na find out ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Fixed overhead per unit ಹೇಗೆ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ? ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅದು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ we are comparing the normal or actual. By comparing these two, whichever is higher we are going to consider. Okay, under case 1 the fixed overhead is remains same for both the cases 12,000 divided by ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ 500 ಇದೆ, ಕೇಸ್ 1 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ 400 ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಇದೆ. So when you compare 500 and 400, the 500 is the higher, that is normal production is higher. So we are going to consider the normal production ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಂತು 24 rupees per unit. 24 rupees per unit. Now we need to allocate ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅಲೋಕೇಶನ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದು? The fixed overhead is 12,000 rupees. We need to allocate this. Allocation. We are doing allocation by two way. One, we are considering the closing stock. Based on closing stock. Closing stock is to 400 units. All the units remain unsold, right? 400 into 24 per unit. ಎಷ್ಟು 9,600, right? Remaining is, here we are taking the remaining overheads. So remaining, what is our total fixed overhead? 12,000. Under this absorbed is 9,600. Already we found 9,600. So what is the remaining balance? 2,400, right? ಸೊ ಈ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀರಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಅನ್ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಡ್. ನೌ ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಕೇಸ್ 2. ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ 12,000 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ 500 ಯೂನಿಟ್, ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಬಂದು 400 ಯೂನಿಟ್, ಆಲ್ ದ ರಿಮೈನಿಂಗ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅನ್ಸೋಲ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಕೀಪ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಕೇಸ್ 2 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ 600 ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ನ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ನ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ 12,000 divided by the production. We are comparing normal production, actual production. ಎರಡನ್ನು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ whichever is higher will be considered. Okay, so the higher is 500, the normal production is higher. So normal production ನ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ. 12,000 divided by 500 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 24 per unit ಬಂತು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಏನು 400 unit. So closing stock is 400 unit into 24 per unit. Then we will get 9,600. Here remaining overheads is 12,000 units ಏನಿದೆ ಆ 12,000 ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ಹೆಡ್, ಮೈನಸ್ 9,600 is absorbed, allocate ಮಾಡಿರೋದು, ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು 9,600. Remaining balance we are showing in the profit and loss account, this unabsorbed or remaining overheads na. Now case 2 ಅಲ್ಲಿ, case 2 is fixed overheads per unit ಏನಿದೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ 500 ಇದೆ, actual production ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ 600 ಇದೆ. So whichever is higher we need to consider. Actual production is higher, right? So rupees 12,000 the fixed overhead divided by actual production is 600. 20 na 20 per unit, rupees 20 per unit. Now we need to allocate this. Fixed overhead is to rupees 12,000. We need to allocate. Allocation we are doing in two way. One, by taking the closing units. Closing units is to 600 into 20, 12,000. ಇಲ್ಲಿ remaining or unabsorbed. Remaining or unabsorbed. The remaining is the total 12,000 minus rupees 12,000. This is the fixed overhead. This is the absorbed overhead, the allocated one. Okay, 12,000. So your remaining is 0. You don't need to allocate anything. Right? And some of the items we won't consider while measuring the inventories. So those are administrative overhead, because after selling or while selling, whatever the expenses you are incurring, that won't be considered. Only the inventory which you are making ready to sell, okay, held for sale, only till that time the process you are considering the cost. So that is why administration overhead we are not considering. Selling and distributions not considered. Abnormal loss, storage cost, cash discounts we are not considering while valuing the inventories or measuring the inventories. Okay, now how to treat the packing of material. Packing of material. ಸೊ ಪ್ಯಾಕೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ರೀತಿ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್. ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನೀವು ಫ್ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ನ ನೋಡಿದೀರಾ, ಆ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರ್ಯಾಪರ್ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಕಾಟನ್ ಪ್ಲೇಟ್ಸ್ ತರ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಸ್ಪಾಯಿಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ. Okay, the box, outer box, the cotton box will be considered as a secondary packing. Primary packing, secondary packing. So primary packing alenu inventories necessary to bring into the present location. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ಗೆ ತರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಏನೇನ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಲೈಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ದೋಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ಸ್. So that we are going to consider. Secondary packing is there, no, that we are not including while valuing the cost, because that will be considered while selling. Okay, selling cost ಅಲ್ಲಿ include ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, inventories ಅಲ್ಲಿ include ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. So this we are not considering. This primary packing we are considering. Then cost of goods sold or cost of sale. The COGS everybody know, right? COGS ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Opening inventory plus purchase or production cost minus closing stock or units sold into cost per unit. In case any inventories they are acquired on deferred settlement terms. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅವರು ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ on credit basis they have brought the materials, but our over and above time ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ದಿನಗಳನ್ನ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದಷ್ಟು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಕೇಸ್ ವಿ ವೋಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದ ಎನಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಅಮೌಂಟ್, ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆನ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶೋ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಇನ್ವೆಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಡಿಫರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಟಲ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್. ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದವಾಗ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅಲೋಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟು ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್. ಮೇನ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬೈ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, so which you want to produce and which you don't want to produce, but from the waste, the scrap, you want to utilize it. So that is joint products irutte. ಅವಾಗ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ನ ಲೊಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? The first thing, if your joint cost is, if the cost of each joint product is separately identifiable. ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗೋವಾಗ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, separately identifiable, the cost of each product, whatever the cost they have incurred on each product, no, that will be considered. In the second case, if the cost of each joint product is not separately identifiable, in this case we will take the total common cost. Total ಆಗಿ ಏನು ಇನ್ಕರ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ we are deducting the NRV of your byproduct. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರಾಪ್ ಮೇಲೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ with intention you are not produced that product, but you don't want to waste that, just for that purpose you have produced, so that is byproduct or scrap. So whatever the NRV is there that you are deducting, then you will get the joint cost. So this joint cost you are dividing between your each joint product in the ratio of sales value of total production ಏನ್ ಸೇಲ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರ ಬೇಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ, ಆ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಬೇಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ನ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಓಕೆ, ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮೆಷರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾಸ್. How we are measuring these inventories? So we are measuring in two different ways. The first one is when the inventory is ordinarily interchangeable, you can change the inventories. We are using historical cost method or non-historical cost method. Under historical cost method, we have two methods, that is FIFO and weighted average cost method. So FIFO means first in, first out. We are not using LIFO method while valuing the inventories. It is not legally allowed to measure under LIFO method. Okay, so only FIFO we are using, that is first in first out method. So here whatever the units we have produced first or purchased first will be sold first. Then under weighted average cost method we are taking an average of the opening stock and whatever the cost we have incurred for the production divided by the units of opening stock. Here cost we have taken, for that the base is the units of opening stock, and whatever the cost we have spent on the production or purchase, the units whatever we have purchased or produced. Okay, So that average we are taking. When it comes to a non-historical cost method, retail method or adjusted selling price method, a standard cost methods we have. Under retail or adjusted selling price method, we will use when we are purchasing items in large number. So there we will take the total sales value minus the margin percentage, whatever the profit we have kept, the margin percentage. Okay. Under standard cost method, we are taking this normal level. Always you have fixed some standard for the usage of material, labor or capacity, whatever you are producing. For that we are taking the fixed standard cost per unit. So we will find the fixed cost per unit, that we will determine the standard cost. Okay, so under inventories are not ordinarily interchangeable, we are using specific identifiable method, and this will be used in jewelries or tailors made inventories. Okay, I hope you all understood the inventories, how to measure. In the upcoming videos I will upload the practical problems also. And always remember, if you are thorough with the concepts, if you are clear with the concept, the problem will be very easy to solve. ಓಕೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಫಾರ್ಮೆಟ್ ನ ಬೈ ಹ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ಫಾರ್ಮೆಟ್ ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನೀವು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ತಪ್ಪು. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ನ ರಾಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಚುವಲಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಅಂಡ್ ವೆನ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್, ಲರ್ನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್, not from mind. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a great day. If you are not yet subscribed, kindly subscribe the channel and press bell icon to receive updates. Have a great day.